Billy reportedly showed up to the producer's house at 2:30 a.m. demanding that the footage not be released. So let's break down why this debate was so damaging to Billy's credibility and his claims about Christianity. So the debate started off with Billy's argument that Jesus was never crucified, which, of course, if true, that means that Christianity is false. And here's the evidence that he gave in support of his claim.
In my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. And that Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. And the text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary, which according to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus, like the codex that comes? Okay, so I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts. I actually have a facsimile, so I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here. And the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just it's a 4th century Greek manuscript. Mm-hmm. It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD. And its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from.
Yikes. So Wes actually has the manuscript that Billy's referring to in his office, and he studies this for a living. But even more devastating,
when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified. And that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the other ones. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers or listeners or whatever be able to see that?
Right now to make sure I have the version that I'm looking for. The text where I was referencing, actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. It shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno. Never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century, and none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish.
Okay. If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit and leading up into the New Testament.
Well, hold on, because do you mind if I address the Gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name again? I'm trying to write notes like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just curious.
So the Gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the Gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the Gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. The reason we know it's also not legitimate is because we can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. And the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text that was borrowed in the phraseology Jesus' wife.
All right, so what Wes is saying here isn't some sort of claim that's hard to verify. You literally can't Google Jesus' wife without seeing tons of articles explaining exactly how all of this went down. This alleged inscription about Jesus' wife wasn't copied from an ancient text, but instead from a modern PDF of the Gospel of Thomas that had an error in it, and the forger accidentally copied the same error. So it's true that Harvard was initially fooled into believing that it was legit, only later to clarify that it was a forgery due to the reasons that Wes brought up. So unless Billy literally doesn't do any research, there's no doubt in my mind that Billy's aware of these facts. So the real question is, how is he going to refute these facts and respond to the claims?
I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit.
So once again, Billy has no rebuttal and is trying to pivot to the Old Testament, despite him going on every major podcast telling people that this is evidence that Jesus had a wife. And just so we're all on the same page here, at this point, Billy has given 3 arguments to undermine the credibility of the Bible and the faith of Christians. His first argument was that the Sinai Bible doesn't mention that Jesus was crucified and that it came before the King James Version. But in reality, not only is there no such thing as the Sinai Bible, the codex that he's referring to does mention the crucifixion and is virtually exact with the Bible that we have today. The second piece of evidence that he gave was for the Book of Barnabas, which was written in Spanish and dated well over 1,000 years later than the biblical manuscripts that we have currently. And lastly, he appeals to the Gospel of Jesus' wife, which was actually just a small fragment that was a proven forgery. And to make matters worse, Billy didn't have a sufficient rebuttal to any of these claims. So at this point in the debate, Wes has successfully refuted every claim that Billy made with facts that anyone watching this video can easily go verify. So now we're all starting to see why Billy worked so hard to keep this video off of the internet.